So welcome to episode 3 of SolveTank, where we, the SaaSOps Live virtual event participants and members of the SaaSOps community, talk to a vendor of a product. We get them to do a very lightning round demo, and then we ask some questions about the demo, about the product, and then we give our sort of hypothetical, theoretical opinion if we think it's a good, viable fit for a company that we may work for or a tool that we might use in the future. So I'm very happy to have Promevo, who are a Kentucky-based G Suite or Google Workspace reseller. On today, Philip is with us to show us gPanel. And I will do one disclaimer that Promevo is the reseller that I use, and I have used gPanel for a number of years, but I will pass it over to Philip.
Thank you so much, Colin. Appreciate it. Very happy to be here with everyone and to share our gPanel application. So to start off with the demo, just real quickly, just to give a brief overview of what gPanel is. gPanel is a domain management tool. It's meant to automate some processes for you folks inside of the Google Administration Console, as well as add features that Google's Administration Console does not currently have in their native application. And it's also going to be much quicker than Google's Administration Console, and it's going to, as you can probably already see from the main screen, going to be much more user-friendly and easy to find things than it is inside of Google's Administration Console. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and kick it off. We have a couple of different modules here that we'll speed through. And I would assume that most are familiar with Google's admin console. So I'll just try to touch on more of the items that our console adds that Google does not. First item what we're going to have here is our user management section. This is where you're going to have listed all of your users, and you do have some abilities here to select specific users and to do some basic operations directly from the landing page. However, if I click into one individual user, you'll see some of the different options that we have available on each individual. First item that you're going to see here is just some general information that you do have the ability to change. Aliases, profile information, which will sync with Google's contact directory. Email groups will show you all the email groups that they're part of, and you can quickly add them to email groups here as well. This is our first item that actually is exclusive to us. Without actually having to log in as the user, you do have access to all of their contacts, and you can add to their contacts, add contact groups, export this contact list, and so forth. Another great feature here is our Gmail settings. Without actually having to log in as the user and reset their password, you do have access to all of their Gmail settings, such as account delegation, filters, send as rules, viewing and adding to their labels, POP and IMAP settings, vacation responder, which is kind of a simple feature, but you would find that a lot do forget to put their vacation responder on, so you would have instant access to that. Forwarding, approved forwarding addresses, and last but not least, one of the biggest items that we initially put into our gPanel application is the ability to view and edit a user's signature. Next item is calendars. This will give you access to be able to view not only the share settings for the individual user, but any calendars that they created. You'll have a share function right here where you can actually see who this calendar is shared with and change access, and also add in additional users to have access. The next item is Drive. This is probably one of the biggest features as well. This gives you full visibility and controllability administration over top of a user's drive. So you do have the ability to dive into a user's drive. You can then select a specific item inside of the user's drive to view share settings. You can rename, move, trash, or actually even view the document from here as well. Auditing is another great feature that we have that Google does not. This is a security feature that gives you the ability to set up a monitor over top of this user's account that will be copied on all incoming and or outgoing email and all incoming and or outgoing chats. So if you suspect a user of sharing sensitive information or doing anything inappropriate, you would have the ability to monitor that account fully. Next item, devices. This is where you'll see any mobile devices that are being managed by the domain. App-specific passwords and app passwords. That's where you'll see those the applications that are utilized in an app-specific password will be listed here. Third-party applications, this is going to be where you'll see all third-party applications that the user has installed, as well as permissions that have been granted to that application by this user. So if you see anything that might throw up a security concern, such as access to their Gmail, their Drive, their contacts, you can quickly select those applications and revoke access to them. And last but not least is our history on this user. So you can filter on specific items that you want to see any changes that have been made inside of gPanel. For instance, I'll go ahead and just hit search on the selected filters, the default filters, and you'll see everything that I just viewed on this user, as well as if I would have made any changes, you'll see that in this edit log as well. And these logs are exportable. So you'll have a full breadcrumb of everything that an admin does inside of gPanel. That's everything on one individual user. I'll just hop in and touch on a couple of brief items inside of directory. Nothing real new here. We do have the same listing of groups, email groups, and you do have the ability to create and edit groups here as well. But where we do stand out is we do have the ability to create group templates. So if I hit an add in a group template, you can create different content and settings and permissions for a group template. And then when you create a new group inside of gPanel, you have the ability to select that group template and those permissions will be applied immediately. Shared contacts, this is where we give you full access to create a contact group or a contact list that will be immediately visible to everyone on the entire domain. So Google gives you the ability to do a intercompany contact list. We give you flexibility to add in vendors, high clientele, things like that. Contact sync takes that one step further. If we add in a new contact sync, I can select a user and then gPanel will load in all of my contacts. I can select a specific contact group that I want to sync with another team member or multiple team members. And then when I go to the next item, all I have to do is just specify the targets. And I can do all of these actions that I've been showing you either by an individual user, email group, organizational unit, or even full domain. And this will nightly sync as well. So if the source user makes a change in anything in their contacts, it will automatically update everyone. Calendars, this just adds in not only the same abilities that I showed you as far as sharing, but this adds in the abilities inside of this module to view and edit events on a user's calendar as well. So this will be great to give to managers to have access over their entire team's calendars in one portal. Under Drive, we have Drive Explorer. Just that, it's going to basically give you a file explorer over top of every user inside of your domain. However, Drive Search is going to give you the ability to select source group of users that you want to search over their specific drive. This can be by full domain, OU, or email group as well. And we can filter by specific items, or we can just do a full free text search. And as soon as that report is completed, then we have the ability to come in and make changes to that specific item. Drive Sweep is another great feature. If for any reason you are on a Google Workspace or G Suite account or edition that does not have Team Drive or Shared Drive, this that gives you some of that capability here with this Drive Sweep. This allows you to select a parent folder, and whoever the owner of that parent folder is, anyone that drops anything inside of that parent folder, the system does a sweep every 45 minutes and changes ownership to that parent folder owner. So it's a great way for teams to be able to share documents without having to worry about ownership transfer if they were to change roles. I'll skip over sites. I know you do have access to sites here, but just the the ability to change who has shared access to it and what sites you have. Devices is going to show you mobile device management, which will show you all mobile devices on the domain, and you have full access here as well to revoke third-party applications, remotely wipe a device, everything that you would have the ability to do inside of Google's administration console. We pull in here. Device management is going to show you all the Chrome devices that are enrolled on the domain and some basic information about those. Reports, we give you access to a ton of reports inside of here. I certainly won't scroll through every one of them, but you can see some of the different ones that we do have. One great feature too that we have on reporting is the ability to schedule reports to be reoccurring. So if you have any weekly meetings or quarterly meetings that you would need these reports for, they'll automatically be delivered via a Drive link in your email. Tools. Under policies, we have the ability to create policies that can be applied to not only active users, but also new users. So if I were to say create a sales team member, then I can select specific actions that I want to be applied to that specific role. Set up the configuration on these selected items, and then when I create a new user inside of gPanel, all I have to do is just select that role, and these policies will be enforced. Another great feature is signature templates. We have the ability to obviously create signature templates on a larger scale. We have all the profile fields listed here. You can also do custom profile fields as well. And then when a user is, or when this is pushed out to a user group, this will overwrite their current signature. We also have the ability to schedule these to be sent out on an hourly basis so that you can just drop a user into an OU or a email group, and then this policy or this signature template will automatically take effect. And we also have the ability to do this at certain times of the year as well. So if you have specific links or anything that you want to run, sales or any specials or anything like that at a specific time, you can also specify exactly when that signature were to take over. This could be as simple as just changing your signatures to a holiday theme around that time. Bulk operations. This is going to be one of the most powerful features inside of gPanel. We give you the ability to perform many bulk operations against a user or multiple users at once. What we can do is we can select specific items to be pushed out to a Google Sheet, for instance, job title. Then I can make any changes inside of that Google Sheet and hit one button inside of gPanel. It brings all of those changes back in and makes them across all of Google. So this is not only a very powerful tool to do things in bulk, but it's a great way for you to
We're back.
And we're back. And one thing I forgot to say is why I'm wearing this uniform, because obviously it is Halloween tomorrow. It is the 30th. And if we were in an office, we would be doing Halloween costumes. So while we were virtual, I decided to do a Halloween costume. Nobody else on this call got the memo about doing Halloween costumes. So that's why I am here dressed as a Star Trek ensign.
I just thought it was the next level beta Zoom feature where it replaces your outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to qualify that, Colin.
But yeah,
It is
that's totally
entirely
normal for you.
appropriate.
Matches your background and your business.
Yeah. Now that there's a virtual backgrounds in Meet, I'm going to be like this forever. Anyway, back to, sorry for that interruption. Let's go back to our program already in progress. Over to you, Phil.
All right, thank you, Colin. I'll go ahead and wrap up here probably in the next 5 minutes. So thank you very much. So I believe we left off on the bulk operations. I was just saying that you do have the ability to push this out to a Google Sheet, make any changes inside of there, and hit one button to pull in all of those changes and make them across all of Google. This is also a way for you, a nice way for you to be able to delegate access to a Google Sheet rather than giving anybody access to other additional information. For instance, what I have here as an example is job title. If you wanted to make sure that your signature templates are pulling the correct job title or that the job title is not blank on their profile, you could actually share this sheet out with everyone, really, and they could drop in their job title, and then you just hit one button and it it pulls in and makes all those changes. Gmail export does just that. It will give you the ability to export a user's Gmail. Decommissioning, we also, as we kind of automate the onboarding process, we also automate the decommissioning process. So you have the ability to specify an organizational unit that you want the system to look for a suspended user. And then when a suspended user is found, you can specify a decommissioning process to happen. You can also specify specific times for this to happen. Immediately after suspension is just by default, but you can also add specific days after suspension for items to take place. Gmail deletion, this is a nice powerful tool too that gives you the ability to search over a user's Gmail and remove an email or thread immediately from everyone inside the entire domain, no matter what the status of that email. So if it, even if it's unread, if it's been archived, if it's been starred, it will, or moved to deletion, it will still remove it completely from everyone's email. So this is a great way for you to thwart phishing attempts, or if accidentally some sensitive information were put in an email group that should not be there. Under administration, most of these are pretty self-explanatory, but I do want to cover the role manager. Role manager is the ability for you to specify a role that you want a specific permissions to be assigned to a user inside of gPanel. So for instance, inside of Google's administration console, they can remain a user level rather than giving them full access to everything. You have the ability to specify exactly what access you want to give inside of gPanel to that person, that individual. We also have the ability then to, once the permissions are set, we also have the ability to do limited limited user visibility as well. So if this is enabled, you can specify who they have those permissions over top of as well. So if you just wanted to exclude other admins or executives from their view, or if this was a manager and you have a sales team organization and you want to give them just access to those permissions over top of their team, you can do so here. Let's see here. So settings, just some basic settings that you can change inside of gPanel. Domain service errors, if anything errors out, you'll see it listed here. Labs is where we actually put in our beta features. So you'll see this list grow pretty exponentially throughout the year, and they will then be released out into the normal UI when they graduate from here. Logging will give you a full list of all logs across the entire domain, and you do have the same filter ability over top of any user inside of here, so you can quickly see any actions taken inside of gPanel, and you're able to reverse them if need be. Domain defaults, right now we just have resource calendars in here for you to set up full domain defaults for resource calendars. However, we're going to be expanding this list for more defaults on the domain as well. Plans and billing, simple. This gives you the ability to quickly add in any licenses prorated immediately through this, this portal, and you can also set up auto payment and specify who receives invoicing as well. My account, just basic look and feel settings here. And then last but not least is our data security. This is actually our gPanel Beyond feature. So this actually is going to open up a whole new portal. And this is going to show you our gPanel Beyond, which is going to give you a visual of everything that is on your current environment. And all of these are drillable, so you can drill down and actually view reports on all of these as well. We also have the ability inside of here to set up text message alerts and email alerts to admins if any quota is reached. So if a user removed 100 documents, if you set that as a trigger, it would automatically send you a text message and an email as well. And that pretty much wraps it up.
Excellent. Thanks, Phil, for the quick run through. So we have about 20 minutes left until the top of the hour. So I will open it up to any colleagues who have any questions they want to ask. I know there were some in the chat that we lost before. If you have a question, speak up.
I'll go with one. You mentioned that this is a product for your, like, people can get as if you're the reseller, but what if you have a different reseller that maybe you're under contract with? Can you get this kind of standalone?
Yes, great question. So we do offer gPanel as a standalone application as well, and we offer that at $8 per user per year.
Is that per admin user or per monitored user?
Good question as well. That actually would have to cover all active and or suspended users.
Cool.
That would also include the archived user license as well. So anyone that's on an active, suspended, or archived user license would have to carry a license.
What about like integration licenses too?
One more time, I'm sorry.
What about like service or integration licenses too?
Yes, those would require a license as well.
With the email signatures, I saw going through that it was possible to change that on the user. Is it possible to mass deploy them based on a template?
Yes. So if you can still see my screen, we do have signature templates. And once you actually build out this signature template, then you can also go inside of edit configuration on that specific template and set up a target list of users that you want that to be applied to.
Okay. How does it group the users? Is it by a group or organizational unit?
So you can do this actually by a specific user list that you just want to use type ahead access. You can also do this by email group, organizational unit, or even full domain.
Okay.
Is there a way of doing that as an additive? So like you could sort of add in something on top of what somebody's already put as a signature, or is it just going to replace?
It would just replace currently, but yeah, that's a great question because Google has now allowed multiple signatures to be added in the back end. So that's a great great question.
How does it add the signature in? Is it like editing their settings and pre-applying the template, or is it doing it like mid-transit?
No, yeah, that's exactly what it does. Is it edits their settings and overwrites their active signature.
Or reporting, for example. So is this only scanning like a log event, or is it actually doing scanning of files? For example, like externally shared files. Are you looking at the log events, or are you actually scanning individual files that's in the Google Drive?
So that's a really good question as well. So we do run logs against that as well in our gPanel Beyond in the data
Right.
security feature here.
Mm-hmm.
For reports specific to that, though, we do have the ability to either manually run that report on like externally shared or publicly shared drive files, and that can be set up to be scheduled as well for delivery.
Okay. And is I guess gPanel Beyond included with the standalone subscription as well, or is that a separate license?
Great question as well. It is actually an additional cost. So that's the only thing outside of everything that I showed that would be an additional cost. If you were to get it standalone, it would be an additional $7 to your $8 purchase. So a total of $15 per user per year. Otherwise, if you already had your Google Workspace or G Suite licenses through us, it would just be a $7 cost per user per year.
Thanks.
How? Sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to ask, what are your sync times for objects created in Google to be reflected in the directory, like new users, new custom attributes, new groups, things like that?
That's a great question too. So everything does sync as it's pulled or as it's called inside of gPanel. However, there is sometimes a little bit of a delay inside of indexing for new users. So if you were to create that new user in the Google Administration Console and not inside of gPanel, so we've added the ability for indexing. So you do have the ability to come in here and do a sync to re-index those users.
I guess the preferred method would always be to create the user within gPanel, because then it would be there straight away to carry on doing any actions you wanted on that user.
Correct. In most cases, you will see that gPanel becomes the main admin tool for gPanel customers. However, there are some that still like to work out of Google's administration console. So we've put this feature in there so that you can instantly re-index if need be.
Yeah, I was thinking of Google domains that are mastered by Okta or a different IDP, where those accounts are being provisioned from that IDP, or new custom attribute mappings are being between the IDP and Google. How fast would gPanel pick those up?
So that's a great question as well. So we do not integrate with any third-party applications directly. So that would first have to update Google's end before we would actually pull it.
Yeah. So you talked about the logs, view logs and edit logs. Are you or am I able to automatically push them into BigQuery?
Not automatically. However, I believe that's actually been brought up by one of our larger customers, and so I believe our development team is actually working on something like that right now, but not currently. No.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
For sites, is that tool does that only work with classic sites, or does that work with like newer sites?
Great question as well, and I failed to mention that. Yes, it is for classic currently. As I'm aware, there is not a API currently from Google for the new sites just yet.
Yeah.
However, sharing for new sites is done through the Google Drive API, I think. So that should be possible somehow through Drive settings. If I remember correctly, I may be wrong.
That's a good point. I'll definitely have to look into that, because I know that is something that has been requested recently by a few of our customers. So I'm sure our dev department would love to be able to find the ability to do that.
I was I asked the first question, and I'm trying to remember what it was about now. There was something you were showing with groups, and I was trying to figure out whether we could use the group templating thing that you'd shown to essentially create naming conventions for groups. So one of the things we're seeing is that we've got thousands and thousands of groups across the organization, and I'd like to be able to understand by visually looking at a group. Okay, this says it's a community group and it's going to have this set of settings. This is a project group, it's going to have that set of settings. And is there a way to kind of like start to template out the naming for as end users create groups?
That's a great question as well. We actually just got that question and that request not too long ago, and that is actually being worked on currently by our development team, but it is not currently in the group templates. But that is definitely going to be a huge asset when we were able to deploy.
Is there a like a features or an ideas site that to suggest any new features to gPanel, or see what has been suggested by other people and what might be in development?
Yeah, that brings up a good point as well. So if I go up here to the feedback button, obviously this is where you can leave your feedback, but we also have a feature setting here where you can just type in a feature, and this automatically creates a ticket for the portion of our development team that works on nothing but new gPanel features. When a new feature is released, you're going to see that in our you're going to see that listed in our lab section first. Typically, because we like to see usage, we get a lot of feature requests, and we want to make sure that it's actually being enabled and utilized by a lot of the domains before we actually push it out to the main UI. And that does bring up one more real quick point too. If there is a specific request that is specific to a domain, we do have the ability to put it in here for them to be able to enable themselves, and then it would not be viewable to anyone else. So we can create specific feature requests for specific domains.
Okay, that's good. And what is on? Can you give us any hint of what features are on the horizon? Is there any new updates coming?
Yes, yeah, definitely. One of the biggest things I think that people have been looking for is in our policies section for us to set up new user policies. We're also going to be adding in the ability for you to do that by role, and a specific email will go out based off of the role that you set, and they will get specific links to documents that are needed for training purposes. They'll also be able to import bookmarks that are specific to that role as well. So it's going to be a really, really largely requested feature that will be out soon.
Okay, great. Coming up to 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Just wanted to see if there are any other last questions that people had.
I remember seeing a question, but I can't remember the full question. Maybe it helps jog the memory of whoever asked it. But someone asked about role access management.
Oh, for like IT support teams.
Yeah. Does anyone remember the full question?
Yeah, actually, I think that was my question. We would look at the signature templates. Is that something where like marketing could come in and make those changes, but not have access to the rest of the dashboard and the portal?
Yes, exactly. So that's actually what our role feature was built for. So inside of roles, we do have the ability to come in here and specify specific permissions. So if I were to just do like Control F, and I could look for signatures, and then I could just add that specific feature to that role and add in multiple, or like the entire group of marketing. Then they would, when they logged into gPanel, that's the only thing that they would see and have access to when they logged in.
I guess on the same thing, you can make it so that end users could only edit their telephone number or title or any other of their own profile information, which would then populate into a signature.
Correct. Yeah. That does bring up another really good point too, is we do actually have a user portal that you can give access to. And inside of that user portal, this is where they would actually have access to be able to change their profile information. Another really nice tool inside of here is directory search too. We give you the ability to turn on or off any of these features too, but you do have the ability to give to users the ability to look for a specific user and what groups they're part of, or vice versa. If you wanted to type in a group, and then it would give you a listing of all of the users inside of that group.
For signing the custom roles out, is that only on a user level, or can you sign roles on a group level?
You can assign roles on a group level as well, yes.
Does that user to group thing show nested groups as well? Or is
yes, I believe so. Yes. Mm-hmm.
For organizations that have like multiple workspaces or multiple domains, would they need multiple accounts of gPanel, or can it do handle a couple of those?
That's a great question. So we do have the ability to go under secondary domains here in our settings, and any secondary domains that are underneath of your production domain, you can just add them in here to give gPanel access. Great question.
I guess I think, like the way Google think, a domain of being a whole separate entity, like a different workspace now. If there were two like for us, we have multiple individual workspaces, and I guess would gPanel as a whole need a new instance of gPanel to access each one of those, or can it consolidate them? And maybe you answered it and I'm missing it, but
no, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, so I guess the simplest way to answer that is if it's not listed in domains underneath of your Google admin console, then we would not be able to add it in here. It would require a separate instance with gPanel.
Can you administrate different applications within the Google, like, I don't know, whitelisting for Gmail?
Not currently, no, not inside of gPanel. We do have the ability to go in and after the fact that somebody has installed something that you want to or you wanted to revoke access to, you do have the ability to do that, but not not creating an entire blacklist prior.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Phil. We have 5 minutes left before the buzzer goes and everybody runs out the door to their next meeting. So let's have a quick run around. I'll call on people because then I've got everybody listed. Just say whether you think this is an interesting product and one that you can see a use for. So, Chris Tucker.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a use for it. I think there's a benefit to, going Promevo as more of a reseller to get it as that benefit, rather than standalone. But I think even standalone, there's some things that would be useful to kind of dive a little farther into to check out.
Cool. Jesse, your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually was a Promevo customer back in 2017, 2018. So, hey, Philip, we have a couple of emails going back and forth.
I thought I remembered you.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a cool tool. I'd love to see, more automation, somewhat similar to Better Cloud, kind of, triggers and information sharing and things like that. Personally, we moved away from it because we built our own little automation tool, but that's now since obsolete. So, potentially this would be an option to take another look at.
Cool. Andy?
I think there's some really interesting sort of novel features here. For me, the concern would be around scale. Like it's still quite a pointy clicky kind of thing, and we're at a scale where I think we need to just automate a lot more than that.
Okay, cool. Dominic? You're muted. Yeah.
Definitely a tool worth looking at. Looks useful in certain situations. So, yeah.
All right, and I think Kelsey had to drop, but she said it was an interesting looking tool and certainly one that would fit organizations. Hiram?
I love the fact that you can put custom attributes into the signature templates. I worked at one large organization where that was an area we kept, like that was a reoccurring request where it was just like, hey, can we like put in this phone number or Twitter handle or some sort of social media within our templates? And I would say, sorry, can't do that. I mean, I can do that in Google, but like I can't do that otherwise in other areas. So that is a very beneficial and powerful area. And the pricing structure that you have, the model you have is actually really nice. I know I had a friend at one company, he was like the only IT person. It was a relatively small company. And he was like, hey, I really need something to help manage, but we can't really afford too much. And so the pricing that you guys have is something that I would recommend to a lot of different people when they ask, okay, what do you use to like manage, or do you have any good thoughts? This is something that gPanel is something that will come to mind.
All right, great. Let's quickly wrap it up in the last couple of minutes. Steve?
Yeah, I think for the price point and features, it's a pretty useful tool comparative to a Better Cloud or a Cloud Unmanaged. So it's definitely competitive in that space.
Cool. And Brian Kim?
Yeah, no, I'm impressed by how quick it is. I got to know that I don't have to be using GAM all the time with some bash scripting. So good to know.
Okay, and Alex?
Yeah, looks like a really valuable tool. Good price point. I'm impressed.
Yep. All right, cool. Excellent. Well, yeah, great to hear everybody's view. Great to hear from Phil, you're going through the demo of that. If people are watching and want to reach out and find out more about gPanel, what should they do?
They can simply reach out to me via Phil, PHIL at promevo.com. That's PROMEVO.
All right, great. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, everybody. And have a great, safe Halloween. I'm disappointed with all of your costumes, but I'm not disappointed about your participation and attendance, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.